Hi guys, this year is the 35th anniversary of Final Fantasy. So I wanted to make a video where I talked about all the games in the franchise that I've played. Here we are on Tier Maker, and let's first put all the games I've actually played onto the list. So we'll just stick them on D tier. So I've played Final Fantasy X, 12, 15, Final Fantasy 1, Final Fantasy 4, 6, I have played a bit of 5, 7, 8, Final Fantasy 9. Okay, so let's go through them in order and see what I think of each one. So Final Fantasy 1. I played Final Fantasy 1 for the first time last year on my channel. I had a lot of fun. As a fan of D&D, I really liked using the spell slot system, and I could really understand the feeling of the developers back in the 80s were trying to recreate the tabletop RPG feeling. I know it was super simple, but I really did enjoy exploring the environment in Final Fantasy 1. And I think the Pixel remaster, especially with the new music and the fresh graphics and easy to use interface, able to save whenever you want and look at the maps, is a really easy to get into version, and I would pretty highly recommend it for Final Fantasy fans. I think probably a lot of people who are fans of the later games wouldn't want to bother going back to the first game, but with the Pixel remaster it makes it a lot easier, and I really enjoyed the experience. Like, exploring the map was fun, and just some simple things like poison I remember poison messing me up pretty bad at sometimes. So Final Fantasy 1 is a great game, and I rank it pretty highly. I'm gonna go for an A for now. Final Fantasy 5. I haven't played too much of this one, so it's not really totally fair for me to rank it, but I'm gonna do it anyway since I have played it. It was cool, the story was cute, but it didn't look like there was gonna be any major plot developments, but it had a cool job system. I'll put it at B. Next is Final Fantasy VI, which I just completed recently. I think Final Fantasy VI is a product of its time in some ways, but it really pushed the franchise forward, and playing the Pixel remaster, I was able to see a lot of things that I liked about Final Fantasy VII actually started in 6. Also, a lot of things from 4 and others too, probably. Yeah, you could see big leaps of improvement from 6 to 7 in storytelling, but the actual plot and stuff of 6, I think it was quite well done, and kind of the way that it starts off linear and then the second half of the game is kind of open world. I found that surprising, and it was really cool. I liked the fact that I was able to explore and do my own thing. At first, I was a little confused because the first part of the game was so linear that I didn't really understand that the second half wasn't. It took me a little while to realize that I could kind of do whatever I wanted. Kefka's a pretty cool bad guy because he's active throughout the story, and he's definitely evil. I also really liked the character Celeste. I liked the opera scene, kind of gave you a feeling of her vulnerabilities, like she wasn't used to doing something artistic like that. And then in the second half of the game, she's ready to give up hope at first, and she almost takes her own life, and she's able to kind of recover and not give up hope in the end. So it's cool that the game's an ensemble cast with all these different characters. Although you start with Terra, you don't have to finish the game with her. So yeah, it's definitely a game that kind of lets you do what you want. I think I'll put this at A tier also. Next is Final Fantasy VII. Here we go, Final Fantasy VII. This is my favorite Final Fantasy. I really enjoy the remake, but I also have a soft spot for the old polygonal models from the PS1 as well. This game means a lot to me. When I hear the music, Cloud's theme or something, Aerith's theme, I start to feel emotional. It was a story that meant a lot to me as a middle school student when I played it, because I think it's a lot about you as Cloud finding out who you are and like trying to understand like the pressure from outside, your own ambitions, and maybe people you look up to who turn out to be not so great. A lot of those themes, they are in a lot of the Final Fantasy games, but because 7 was the first one I played and they had kind of progressed the storytelling a lot from the earlier entries, it was really able to convey those feelings to me. I really enjoyed it when I played it when I was a kid. I played the HD version on PC a few years ago and still really enjoyed it, and now the remake's out and I love that too. I know Sephiroth is not maybe as active in the story sometimes as someone like Kefka, but I still think he's a really strong villain, and his story is actually kind of similar to Terra, except for the fact that Terra had friends around her to support her, and so she didn't end up running wild. But yeah, Sephiroth didn't have those advantages. As for the gameplay, I know some people don't like that the materia system kind of makes everyone kind of similar to each other, but I still think it's fun, and I like customizing everyone with the materia, so I don't really mind that their classes are not that unique. Probably the story is the main thing that makes me love this game, and it means a lot to me. I gotta put it in S tier. Final Fantasy VIII. I have not completed this one, but I've played a significant amount and actually quit the game because of some of the story I was not into. This basically the only one that I've just stopped playing on purpose, so I'm gonna put it down at C. Final Fantasy IX, also I have never completed but played a significant amount. I did enjoy it a lot, but the story kind of lost me after I kind of defeated the original antagonist and the new antagonist is kind of revealed. I've played through it around to that point twice and got kind of sidetracked and just forgot about the game, so it didn't hold my interest too much, so I'm gonna put it at B. But I think I liked it better than 8 overall. Final Fantasy X. I think I started this at the end of high school, and I remember beating it in my college dorm room. I was like playing, I had the TV in a closet and I was just playing it there with my roommates around. Kind of messed up the experience probably. I did enjoy it overall. I think I'd put it at B also. Final Fantasy XII. This is another weird one for me. I played a good way through it, I think, when it first came out, but I was like I guess I was like finishing college. I didn't really have time to like get into a Final Fantasy game at that time, so I actually went back with my original PS2 copy later and beat it on the emulator. I did like it. The characters, some of the characters kind of bothered me. I didn't really like the main character, Vaughn, and the side characters were a lot more interesting. And I remember the kind of near the end that there was a lot of kind of repetitive grinding and stuff. So it's kind of back and forth. So I think I gotta put it at B tier also. 15. Final Fantasy 15. This game was in a very troubled development for a long time and started as Versus 13, eventually evolved into 15, changed directors, and I'm sure the whole team probably changed out. The story started in one place and someone else had to take over. I think it was it Tabata who took over? I originally played the game on PS4 and I was kind of worried about getting spoilers, so I sort of rushed through the game, and actually in some ways that was good because I was able to kind of get through it without worrying about grinding or anything like that. I was able to get through the story quickly and I was able to understand what was going on. But although it was kind of apparent that they weren't able to fully realize their vision with the story, I still think they did a good job of developing the characters of Ignis, Prompto, Gladiolus, and Noctis. And by the end of the game, when the whole world was flipped upside down, similar to Final Fantasy VI, yeah, I was actually getting emotional when they were kind of preparing themselves for the final battle. Later on, I went and actually replayed the game on the Windows edition, which let you actually control all 4 of the main characters. And I was able to take my time and do more of the hunts and side quests and things like that. And yeah, the graphics are beautiful. I really like the camaraderie between the characters, and there were some pretty cool, interesting, weird dungeons that I hadn't played on my first time through. So I actually really ended up enjoying the game a lot, despite it being probably the most flawed Final Fantasy game. That was a good experience for me. It's kind of weird. I know a lot of people don't like this game, but I'm gonna actually put it at A tier. I really enjoyed it. Final Fantasy IV. The story of Cecil Harvey in Final Fantasy IV was surprisingly compelling to me. I really enjoyed the way that the story started with this dark beginning where Cecil was just following orders of the king and then ended up doing something he regretted. And around the middle part of the game, he tries to earn his redemption, and he passes a trial to become a paladin. And not only does his character change, but his graphics change, his little sprite. Some of the characters are married and they have normal relationships already. It's not just typical love story stuff. Of course, it's one of the earliest Final Fantasy games that they tried to tell an actual story in. So, they were still learning how to do it, but I think they were pretty successful on the plot line itself. Final Fantasy IV actually made a lasting impression on me, and I really enjoyed it. And I actually like the characters even more than Final Fantasy VI in some ways. I'm gonna actually put this up at A tier. But yeah, I guess that's my list there. 7, number 1, that's S tier. I would put Final Fantasy Tactics up here also at S tier, but it's not on this particular list. I haven't played 11 or 14. They're not on this list either, so I don't know anything about them really. Yeah, so Final Fantasy 1, really did enjoy the Pixel remaster. 4, liked the characters and had a fun time with that one. 6, yeah, they did a really good job with the linear story at the front and then the open world stuff at the end. Final Fantasy 15, very flawed game, but I still really enjoyed it in the end. 12, some annoying characters and some weird grinding gets it down to B tier. 10, storytelling improved in some ways, but kind of over dragged out in other ways. 5, didn't really play enough to say too much about it, but I thought it was cute. Final Fantasy 9, I think it's a good game. I really do want to finish this one, but for some reason it's lost my interest twice. Final Fantasy 8, I wouldn't mind trying this again. I actually have it on Switch, the remaster. I want to give it another chance, but yeah, initially actually didn't really like it very much, especially compared with 7, because when I played 8, the only other one I had played was 7, and I loved 7, so it got a lot of rough comparisons for me. And for the others, I'm actually a little bit interested in 13. I might end up playing 13 eventually. That's my Final Fantasy franchise review. Here's hoping that Final Fantasy 16 will turn out to be a cool game, and hopefully we can enjoy it together on this channel eventually. But until then, stay tuned, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll be doing more Final Fantasy stuff in the future. And until next time, See you guys.